What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we are going to be going over the best and the worst of the Buccaneers' Week 7 loss to the Baltimore Ravens by a final score of 41-31. A high-scoring affair in this one, but I am not alone in this video. Joining me today is my CFP co-host, Mr. Rhett Matthew. Rhett, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Could be better. We are at a very pivotal point in the Buccaneers season, and there is a lot to unpack, a lot to discuss after a performance like that against the Ravens on national TV, no less. So excited as I can be to dive into this thing.
Yeah, let's start with the good, right? We want to, in every loss there's positives, and every win there's negatives, right? So let's look at the positives of this game. I want to start off with the Buccaneers running backs. I didn't want to pick one in particular because, look, they were going up against a tough challenge this week in the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens owning the league's best run defense, averaging 59 yards allowed on the ground. And the Buccaneers did quite well for themselves given the circumstances. Rachaad White, Sean Tucker, and Bucky Irving all got a healthy amount of carries, and they were all pretty decent, I thought, for the most part in this game, given the circumstances. You know, the Buccaneers are going to be passing the ball a lot because they were down most of the game, but also the Ravens' run defense is really good, and I was pretty impressed, though, by the Buccaneers' running game.
Yeah, you want to hope that that's something they can take advantage of when you face lesser run defenses, right? We knew what the Bucs were up against, number one run defense in the NFL, and I think we saw, despite the game kind of getting away from them later on when the Bucs are playing from behind, I think we saw the beginning of what can be an effective three running back rotation for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw Rachaad White come back and get involved in the pass game. We saw Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving get some meaningful carries, so I think this is definitely something they can build on, and it could become a strength for them here in the coming weeks.
Definitely. And we're going to continue on the offensive side of the ball. Go to the team's leading receiver for this game. It's Mr. Cade Otton, the tight end, and 8 catches for 100 yards exactly. That is his new career high now. So Cade Otton had a pretty good day. Made some tough catches too. And, we've seen Cade Otton sometimes have a case of the dropsies, right? Sometimes he doesn't always, catch the ball, but it seems like the tougher catches are the ones that he consistently makes. He was doing that all over the field against the Ravens. What'd you see? What'd you like out of Cade Otton?
Yeah, with the injuries to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the importance of guys who can step up and make plays on the offense is going to be that much more amplified. And Cade Otton showed he can hang in there and make some of those tough catches tonight. He really started to shine when they picked up the pace on the offensive side of the ball. I think when the Buccaneers offense is quickly trying to move the football down the field, they do a pretty decent job at finding Cade Otton, and he does a decent job at reeling in those passes most of the time. But yeah, a couple of tough catches for him tonight. Hopefully he gets some more looks here over the next few weeks and can continue to progress as the Buccaneers tight end one.
Definitely. And now I do want to talk about the defensive side of things, okay? I'm not going to completely ignore the defense. However, we got to be real with you. We got to be real with you. This is not a good game for the defense. So while we are going to have a positive, name for the defense, it wasn't like he had a beast of a game, but he was somebody who stood out, I think, and that's Yaya Diaby. Yaya Diaby had 5 total tackles and a sack. That sack came on the very first drive for the Buccaneers defense, and it was a big momentum shift at the time there. Baltimore was around midfield. Diaby comes up with the sack there, and then Antoine Winfield Jr. got sacked the very next play, but Diaby, looked pretty good early. But really, I mean, this Buccaneers defense, look, they didn't look great, right? And with not looking great, that does lead me into the worst or the most disappointing. And we're not going to list a bunch of people. You could, right? Because this game, while it's a 10-point game, that's a little bit of smoke and mirrors, right? That's not exactly the whole tale or the whole story of the game. We are going to go back to the offensive side of the ball, though, and talk about Baker Mayfield. And that's something where we're talking about smoke and mirrors. The Buccaneers had 2 or 3 drives down the stretch of this game where this game was already in hand, and the Buccaneers were just moving the ball, just like you mentioned, doing the no huddle stuff, getting the quick, pass to Cade Otton, just moving the football consistently. And it makes Mayfield's stat line look a little bit better. 31 for 45, 370 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The 2 interceptions, though, came within 3 passes of each other, including one in the end zone there where the Buccaneers had a chance to score a touchdown. They come away with nothing there. I thought it was a rough game for Baker Mayfield, not only throwing the ball, holding on to the ball a bit too long, and I just didn't think he was in sync.
Yeah, we were able to praise him last week after putting up 51 in New Orleans because he was able to bounce back from the yips. He was able to get some eyes on his receivers downfield, find a little more vision in the pocket, find the open receiver in the check down, and it just kind of got away from him this week. I know there were a lot of other different examples of this Buccaneers team kind of folding down the stretch here, but it just didn't seem like things were getting much better for Baker. And then again, they were moving the football late in the game, but too little too late there. Really, he shouldn't have even been in the game, and that's a discussion we'll have in a minute here. But yeah, rough week for Baker, and he just couldn't bounce back this week.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now let's switch over to the defensive side of the football. And again, we could say a lot of people for this, right? Because there was not a lot of guys that had a good game for the Buccaneers on defense, but there was one in particular that really stood out in a not so good way, and that was Jordan Whitehead. And look, this, I think John Ledyard had tweeted it out. This might have been one of the worst games that he's ever seen from Jordan Whitehead, and I agree. Jordan Whitehead was not very good in this football game. Got beat a couple of times through the air. Mark Andrews broke his ankles and then ended up scoring a touchdown on him. Derrick Henry takes the check down, and like Whitehead was really trying to like avoid contact with him. Henry got into the end zone. Not a good game, and definitely a game that Whitehead is going to want to throw out the tape on. Jordan Whitehead, though, yeah, not good. Hopefully, he can have a bounce back next week.
Well, we've seen what Derrick Henry can do to defensive backs in the past, so I don't entirely blame him for jumping out of the way of that stiff arm. But yeah, you hate to see a performance like this for Jordan Whitehead. We know what he's capable of in a Todd Bowles defense, and maybe it's a scheme issue. Maybe it's more so player execution. I think both of those things obviously factor into it, but this was out of character for him tonight, and this was a secondary that was getting torched. And the middle of the field has been a concern throughout the season. He had to be better against the Ravens on Monday night. And, he was part of the reason the defense looked the way they did.
Another reason the defense looked the way they did is our final disappointing player person, I guess you could say, of the game. That is Todd Bowles, the head coach. Now, he's on here for two reasons, basically. Reason number one is the defense, right? This is supposed to be his unit. He is a defensive-oriented head coach. And it's a unit that has been getting torched consistently, very consistently throughout the entire season here. Kirk Cousins, throws for over 500 yards, and now you have Lamar Jackson with almost a darn near perfect game. And there just seem to be no answers for the Ravens offense from the Buccaneers defense. The other reason, and this is going to be the thing that is talked about the most, I think, Todd Bowles decides to leave the starters in. Okay, when the game is already in hand, this game is done. Todd Bowles leaves the starters in. They have a few drives. Okay, you see a lot of people screaming on social media. All right, take them out. Take them out. Take them out. The game's over. What does it matter? Take them out. Put the starters back out there one more time. And with, I Bleav, 41 seconds left, Chris Godwin catches the pass for a first down. Looks okay. Goes down. Doesn't get back up right away. And can't get up. Ends up that Chris Godwin, believed to have a dislocated ankle, which would essentially end his season. And people are furious with Todd Bowles right now because why in the world would you have your starters out there with 40 seconds left in a game that has already been decided when you have a massive, massive divisional game on the horizon on a short week? Rhett, what are you thinking?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Fire Todd Bowles crowd is going to be louder than ever this week. And I don't necessarily want Todd Bowles fired, but I can absolutely understand why people want to hold stuff like this against him.
It's the first strike this season, I think.
Right. I think it is a major mistake. But again, you talk about the Chris Godwin injury. I don't want to say he's to blame for Mike Evans because the game was still competitive. When Mike Evans, he catches that first touchdown, he kind of gets up, limps off of the field, goes to the sideline, shakes off the trainers. So I don't know if there was a trainer or a coach that could have told Mike Evans to stay out of that game. But, Mike probably didn't need to be in the game after dealing with kind of a bum hamstring all week. He pops up on the injury report, looks visibly shaken after the touchdown against New Orleans. He was hurt early in that game, and they took him out. He didn't do a lot. I don't know why that wasn't the game plan this week, but it wasn't. He ends up getting hurt, and then again, exactly what you just talked about with Chris Godwin. I think this is all stuff that's going to factor into the argument against Todd Bowles. But on top of that, the arguments, the criticisms we've had against Todd Bowles in the past are going to be under a magnifying glass over the next few weeks, because this is a point in the season where you have to adjust. We talked about the defense giving up a ridiculous amount of yards. We've come to the conclusion that if the blitz isn't going to apply pressure on a quarterback, if it's not going to force mistakes, then the coverage just isn't going to be there. Like, it's not good enough to slow down an offense from scoring, from moving the football, from setting themselves up to put points on the board. You might have a bend but don't break defense, but they're still going to get 3 points if they have Justin Tucker as their kicker. So it's one of those things. And a whole
lot of yards.
Yeah. It's one of those things where when you're down your top 2 wide receivers, and then the depth of this defensive line, the performance of this defensive line already being something that we talked about, Todd Bowles is going to have to make some serious adjustments here if the Bucs want to continue an upward trend for the 2024 season. I think the pressure is on. He's not on the hot seat by any means. I mean, the Bucs are still 4-3, still competing for their division, but when you have mistakes that cost you franchise players like the ones on Monday night, you can't defend that stuff.
No, absolutely. And there's, you can be a Todd Bowles fan, you can be a Todd Bowles defender. I don't see how you can spin that one. I don't see how you can spin that one. And I'm not, if you guys listen to the show, me and Rhett both are not these people that some people come into our chat and they want blood, right? They want Bowles fired no matter what, right? Like after a single loss, whether it's his fault or not. That's not us, but you can't defend this. So with that being said, let us know if there's anybody who was impressive to you, if there's anybody who was more disappointing for you. We are always curious to hear it in the comment section below. For sure, I think there's going to be a lot of differing opinions on this game, but let us know in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.